This box might seem familiar to a lot of people out there. We've got Santa shaking hands with Uncle Sam, and it's from the Shiny Bright Corporation, which was based in New Jersey. They started off in 1937 and produced thousands and thousands and thousands of American-made ornaments. So chances are these are in many attics and garages and basements and are just crying to be put out on a tree today. I find them at garage sales and flea markets and secondhand stores, and they can be had for pennies on the dollar. Really, buying vintage ornaments is not only a huge savings, it's also green. Why buy new when things already exist that have a patina and a shine to them and are part of the fabric of our history? Even if you don't have a tree, you can still be festive. I love this jolly guy right here. He's probably from the early 1950s, made of hard plastic. If you don't do a Christmas tree, by the way, you can put one of these out and add some holiday flair to your home. A lot of people don't do a Christmas tree, and that doesn't mean that you can't decorate. Put out a plastic Santa like this guy, or I have a friend who has her mother's ornaments, and she puts them in a bowl in the entryway. And every time she passes them, she thinks of her mom. They add a special glow to the home, and she doesn't have to worry about the mess of a tree. I frankly don't mind the mess of a tree, but a lot of people with kids and busy lives really don't have the time to do it, but that doesn't mean you can't bring holiday into your home. Ephemera, for those who don't know, is really a category of collecting that's all about paper items, things that were never meant to last. Therefore, it's really special that they've hung around all these years. I like this paper box of Christmas snow from the 1930s. I set it up on a shelf at the holidays, and it adds a special little touch and reminds me of a simpler time. I love the cozy little house nestled in the snow. And this box came out of an old attic, and it's from a long-ago department store in New York City called Gimbel's. I love what's inside as well. We've got a very special Victorian angel, which actually predates the box. And again, if people don't want to go all out with vintage holiday decor, putting a tree topper like this right at the top really adds a special something. I'm a big believer in reading to your kids and also reading to yourself at the holidays. I love Miracle on 34th Street. It's a classic story, a great movie, and this is the original book with the original dust jacket. I found it at a flea market. And this guy is a 1970s take on our favorite Rudolph. It's a piece of new old stock, so it was never actually used, and a dealer gave it to me as a gift with purchase. For those who are challenged with space, I recommend items like this because they're not breakable, you can set them up on a shelf, and then you can just lay them flat and store them under the bed if you need to. This is but a small example of how I pack my vintage holiday decor. It's important to use acid-free tissue and surround each ornament with a little bit of space. It can seem a bit tedious, but when they're this fragile and this old, you really want them to last. Invariably, I have a few break every year, but this sort of reduces the risk of that, and it looks really pretty. So when I open up my ornaments out of the box at the end of November, when I start this whole process, I'm greeted with this beautiful montage. This is a vintage tree topper, and what I say to people is that if you don't want to have tons of vintage ornaments on your tree, but you want a little bit of a vintage look, these are great to look for. You can usually find them for about $5 or $10 at flea markets, and this little angel has a decidedly Tammy Wynette look, even though she predates Tammy by about 20 years. If you're anything like me, my cards go out at the last minute, but I always remember to add a little touch of vintage to my greeting cards. I put these seals on the outside or in the inside, and I find them at flea markets and garage sales for pennies on the dollar. I don't shop at a lot of big box stores, and I love little mom and pop businesses if I can find them. And this is a reminder of what used to be in the window of small businesses of the holidays. This probably was in the window of a jewelry store, and it was set down and nestled within all the jewels on a velvet background. I put this on a mirror in my entryway, and it always gets smiles. I love how it catches the light, and it has this decidedly 1930s vibe to it. Again, things like this can be found at flea markets for under $5.